Hey guys, welcome to the Podcast Accelerator live from Podcast Movement 2019. It's been a busy week, and every podcast that we talk to is always focused on creating better content, but no one really knows what that means. Everyone's just trying to do quote-unquote better, trying to achieve more download numbers, and I don't think there's anyone that knows this better than the main man, my friend, Mr. Jordan Harbinger. How are you doing?
Hey, good. I mean,
the show.
I have to say good, but the truth is it's the last day of the conference, and I've been better.
We know how that goes.
Yes.
We know how that goes. Now, we're going to dig into what it means to be a creator. 'Cause I don't think anyone knows content. And in terms of digging deep, I don't think anyone knows that much better than you. Now, quick reminder for you guys, the Accelerator Show is sponsored by Captivate.fm, the world's only growth-oriented podcast host. Go and check it out for 7 days completely for free at Captivate.fm. So, we're at Podcast Movement. 3,000, 2,000-ish creators.
Oh, yeah.
People that wanted to grow their show. They seem to be focused on just the tech. They seem to be focused on just what hosting company is going to give me X.
Yeah.
What technology is going to help me do Y. I think a little similar to you. I think it's more about the content.
It is,
it's about the depth. Tell us a bit about
People
that.
would rather buy a fancier microphone or another tripod that looks better or something like that folds differently than work on the actual skill of hosting a show, growing a show, engaging with fans, because that stuff can be a little bit rote, it can be a little bit of a grind, and it's more fun to have a new toy than it is to, say, spend 3 hours a week answering all of your Instagram messages or however long it takes. So that's a big problem. It's sort of this shiny object thing. Oh, I've got this thing and it automates this and it automates that. It's like, well, the reason that people aren't sharing your stuff is not because it doesn't look as good or isn't as well lit. The reason they're not sharing it is because they don't have a personal relationship with you. So the best thing you can do is engage with fans, make sure that your interview skills are on point, make sure that your presentation skills are interesting. That's the stuff that's actually going to make a difference. It just is harder to do because it might take you 10, 15 years to become a good interviewer, and nobody wants that. They want to buy the GoPro 7 instead of the GoPro 6, and that's the game changer for them, and it's instant gratification.
The word game changer, that is a real bugbear of mine. I agree totally. No one wants to work on the art and the craft of this. We spoke to Evo Terror about the very same thing. And there's so many, when you see these events, everyone is solving problems that
maybe don't exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not even there. And I often see podcasters cycle through these things. So they worry about, okay, I bought this thing last year.
Yeah.
Now I need to buy this next thing.
Yeah.
So if we take that out of the equation, let's go back to podcasting as it existed 10 years ago. It was content. Yeah. Syndication was difficult. You rose up through that period. You become one of the biggest in the world, one of the best in the world, one of the most revered in the world. And that has come through practice. Number one, how did you know where to focus that attention? How did you know what to work on?
You know what? There was less tech. I mean, we ordered our first USB microphone interface from Guitar Center. They had to special order it because when we went there, we want to plug microphones into the computer. And they said, why would you do that? And then we said, well, we're going to do this thing with a podcast. And they're like, well, you can use this clip-on USB thing that sounds crappy and is used for recording WAV files on Windows or whatever. And we said we needed two of them, and they went, ooh, 2 microphones, 1 computer? I don't know. So they were flipping through a catalog, and we bought this crazy expensive thing that had to be special ordered. I mean, that's what we were talking about. So there wasn't like, ooh, there's a new shiny toy that we need. It was, we don't have a lot of money. We were in college at the time, grad school, and we'd already blown our budget on the audio interface. So there wasn't a new upgraded version to buy. There wasn't a fancier thing to get. So we never were able to focus on that, because if there was something fancy, we couldn't have afforded it anyway. So we just talked about what we were interested in, and there was an authenticity to that was missing in radio, and still is, and there was nothing to get distracted. There were no distractions. This was something we created in a basement, and we weren't trying to be fancier than anyone else. I didn't even know anybody else who was creating podcasts at that time.
Okay, so that's interesting, because that siloed kind of, no, it's not a mentality. It's more just a cause of circumstance.
Sure.
Because you're in the basement, you are creating, and so many people are still doing that now. It's very difficult. But let's be honest. We live in a world of online courses. We live in a world of instant gratification, as you mentioned, where you can spend $97 on something that should be £35,000 and expect to just instantly become this expert in whatever, interview skills, in anything at all. What do you believe? Like, what's the one thing that podcasters should focus on? In particular, should it be interview skills? Should it be should they listen more? Should they research more? Like, what is the one thing they can instantly improve without having to spend $97 on a bloody course? What's that one thing they should spend a little more time on?
I think the thing that you can spend the most time on is listening to things that you create. So the time that I made the most improvement was when I was editing my own show. That's kind of unscalable at a certain point. If you're releasing a show every day, you're editing your own show, you're going to start cutting out filler words. And I stopped using ums almost entirely because I had to manually remove them. That'll get you to think about what you're saying if you've got to manually cut out everything. And so when I was editing my own show, I found a lot of things that were lackluster. And I will still now, every month, I go back, or every week, I will go back and listen to something that I released a few weeks ago and go, all right, am I happy with this? What am I happy with? What am I not happy with? So you don't have to continually edit your own show. But right now, what people are doing is they'll go, oh, I recorded in my car, and then it's automatically Dropbox to my Filipino virtual assistant who edits it. So you have no idea what your own finished product sounds like. So you don't know that it sounds terrible, and then this person cuts out the sneeze at the end, and that's it. So you have to do that stuff yourself and see if you're happy with it. And if not, you have to work on that. Most people are trying, well, it's going to take me years to become a good interviewer. True. Oh, it's going to take me years to... I have a day job. I can't spend 20 hours preparing for the interview. Okay, fine. But if you're literally not even looking at what you create at the end, you're just looking at your part of what you create, you're missing an opportunity. And I think anybody should be able to kind of listen to their finished product and go, I did really poorly with this, or I can certainly use some work on that.
Something that's just sprung to mind there, because I think that's a really, really strong piece of advice, is that so many people, podcasting's great for listening to your own voice. You've got to really get over the fact that, you know what, just because you're on tape and you can physically record something, you can listen back to that. That does not mean that it's good content.
Very true.
And you can pat yourself on the back and say, I've done this. And that's going to get you so far.
Yeah.
That's going to get you the first 6 months of podcasting. But then when the numbers stagnate, people, that's when they start to look for this next new microphone or the fancy tripod, right?
Yeah, and I'm guilty of that too. Look, if a new gadget comes out, I'm like, ooh, do I want that? And then I just, over the past 13 years of buying stuff and then putting it in the closet, I realize that 99% of the time, I don't want that. I need to work on the hard stuff. But again, it's so much nicer to go, oh, look, new GoPros with that new fuzzy thingamajig. I'm going to get that. Nah, what I need to do is listen to 5 hours of my own voice and nitpick why I missed follow-up opportunities or questions that I should have asked. That's more painful, less fun, takes longer. You got to lean into that stuff. That's the equivalent of doing wind sprints for a podcaster. Nobody wants to do it, but that's what makes people who are winning athletes great at what they do, because they're in the gym. This is the gym.
It's the second it becomes painful, it starts to work.
Right? Yeah.
That was something that I think I read it in a Muhammad Ali book. It was a biography of that. He used to train until it hurt, and then he believed then he would start training, because it's only when it becomes difficult that you actually develop. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, super stuff. Well, listen, always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure. Really, really fun. You guys listen out there, thank you so very much. Thank you to Arnie for calling by the booth, and Kat. It's always wonderful to meet the listeners. It's a real pleasure. If you guys need anything, hit me up, mark@rebelbasemedia.io. Until next time, Jordan, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
And until next time, never forget, the more you expect from yourself, the more you will excel.